Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're going to be doing a Louisiana versus Missouri preview. We're going to recap what happened with the Cajuns versus the Cowboys this past Saturday at Our Lady of Lords Stadium. We're going to recap that action here. But before we get anything started, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok on all our social media channels and threads. So we got a lot of good videos, and we like to hear from you guys. So anyway, let's get down into the action here. So welcome to the Fishbowl, Jalen. How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well, Chief. How you doing?
I'm doing very well myself here. So let's talk a little bit about McNeese in Louisiana. Kind of go through the game. Any impressions? Did the Cajuns improve from week one to week two, or did you think it not really much improvement going on there?
I think they definitely improved from the first game against Rice, and then you go to the second game against McNeese, both games being at home at Our Lady of Lord Stadium. I think it started out a little slow against McNeese, but then the Cajuns kind of picked it up. They ended up winning 34-10. It didn't look that way throughout most of the first half, but I think throughout the game, I really saw a more balanced team than I did against Rice. And I think Daniel Beal, who got the start for Walker Howard. I think he did great. On through 22 passes, converted 14 of them. I think overall it was a great game. But guess what the Cajuns were able to do? They were able to run the football. Bill Davis scoring 2 touchdowns. That was the main difference of the game for them being able to run the ball.
I do think that the Cajuns' identity going forward is going to be running the football to set up the pass. And I think that's something that we can look at as we go further along into this season here. So Bill Davis had 19 rushes for 132 yards and two touchdowns, averaged 6.9 yards a carry there. Zalin Perry also had a great game himself, 14 carries for 94 yards, no touchdowns, but he was 6.7 yards a carry. And the emergence of the third running back, like we've been talking about for the last week and heading into the preseason, who is going to be that RB3 that really show up and take advantage of this year? We probably found him here. Steven Blanco, 6 rushes for 69 yards and a touchdown, 11 and a half yards a carry. This is something that is very prototypical of this Cajun team throughout the years, going all the way back to Billy Napier and Billy Napier and company. So since like 2018, we've seen three running backs in this Cajun stable, and it looks like they have another three running back pair going on here. Even Daniel Beal got some rushes in, 3 rushes for 22 yards. They tried running the ball with Lunch Winfield. He only got 4 yards on 3 carries there. But he lost 2 yards on the thing, so net gain of 2 yards there, 0.7. So as a team, Cajuns rushed for 336 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, 315 net gain yards and 3 touchdowns, excuse me. So, you alluded to Beal, 14 of 22 for 86 yards and a touchdown. He only got sacked one time, which is a very good thing here in this game here. Now, granted, the competition level of FCS is not nearly as close as FBS talent is generally across the board. You have some exceptions. What about North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and the powerhouses alike that going on there? Y'all know what I'm talking about there. Those teams are usually a lot better than like McNeese and really deep into. They're kind of like cusp of FCS to go into G5, and that's kind of what we saw here. So looking ahead at targets for the receivers here, which the receiving core of Louisiana is pretty weak, I would say. Longest pass was for 19 yards, and that was completed to Kadarius Wade. He only had one target and he got a catch for 19 yards and 9 yards after the catch there. So a lot of 5 and 10 yard passes here was the setup here. The receiver that was the most targeted in this game was Shelton Sampson. Sampson did have a drop again this week. He's not really shaking that reputation of having stone hands very well entering this season here. But look, he was targeted 5 times. He does look like he gets a little I don't know, like they don't get as good separation as I thought they would get here in this game here, but I mean, they're getting targets, and it seems like, Kane Jensen got targeted 3 times, but only 9 yards. He didn't get that many yards after the catch, only 3 yards after the catch there. And that's something that needs to improve. Yards after catch is something that the Cajuns are really struggling with across the board if you look at from the first game to the second game. Is there opportunity upside, like finding an open guy and getting in those routes? Their maybe route running might be able to set them up, but I do think that play calling has a little bit to do with that there. The first game, Dez was trying to get them to go deep. This game, they really set up the run here. I think going forward with the Cajuns, their identity is kind of similar to what I talked about with Rice. I think if the Cajuns can control time of possession going forward in the season here and limit that other offense from getting on the field, it's going to really rest their defense here. But they need to double this number here. 86 yards. They didn't. They have never passed over 100 yards in the first 2 games this year. So that being said, if they could somehow double that, if they get to 160 to 200 yards passing, we might see a big difference there for sure because it will. They don't have to throw for 300 yards. I don't think that's the thing that the Cajuns need to do. I think if they get 160 to 200 yards, it's going to back that defense off of that line of scrimmage and not allow them to stack 8 in the box to stop the running game. And that's when the running game takes over. You could do the 5 to 10 yard passes and have success, but you're going to have to take some deep shots only if they're there. I wouldn't try to force the ball, which so far it isn't looking like that's decision making needs to improve in some regards to that there. But overall, I do think the Cajuns they did better, but the talent of competition wasn't quite unison across the board. I don't think we're gonna know what we're getting a bunch of different levels across the board of like talent comparison. Next week's gonna raise up really high with Missouri and SEC school, so that's something that I'm gonna look forward to. Tony Sterner didn't. I mean, he was 2 of 4. He made from 37 and 38 yards out, missed a 53 yarder and a 28 yarder. Um, he got better as the game went along. So that's something there to look at there as we look ahead here. Um,
And he's a
they
lefty,
had
huh?
two. What, Sterner?
Sterner, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a lefty.
I'm pretty sure I saw a
So
kick. I said, okay, we got a lefty. Okay.
yeah, it's very interesting to see kicking the different kicking styles. So comparing the offenses, Cajuns had 401 yards of total offense. McNeese had 238. Um, Penalties, McNeese definitely got more heavily penalized, which helped the Cajuns in certain regards. 8 penalties for 105 from McNeese, and the Cajuns were 6 penalties. 6 flags were called for 55. Cajuns did fumble the ball twice, but they never lost any one of them, which is good for them. Um, not to, because that's something that's really worrying some to see because they had as many penalty first downs as they did passing first downs. So that is something when McNeese messed up, they really messed up, and that is something to look at here. The Cajun defense, they played well once again, I think, in this game here. Um, that is something that, needs to be said here. The Cajun only got 1 sack, and that came from Caleb Cabody. He got 4 tackles on the day and a sack. 4 yard tackle for loss, that kind of regard there. Did very well. Um, Cortland Flowers had 4 tackles in that game. Marion Elam had 6 tackles himself there. So he led the Cajuns in tackles for that game there. So Jalen, what can improve for the Cajuns here? I think that's kind of like what's gonna be more expected of them going forward. How do you beat McNeese, I think. What you thinking?
How did they go into their game against Missouri?
Oh yeah, Missouri. My bad. I'm looking at McNeese and I'm like, okay.
Ah, you're good. Then, hey, Chief, they're both M's. I understand. Trust me. Um, going into their game against Missouri, I think two things, and one on each side of the ball. The Cajuns have to have a great passing offense, and they have to have a great run defense. I don't know if you remember this, Chief, but one of Missouri's running backs, Ahmad Hardy, was at ULM last year. And he was a tear as a freshman at ULM. Now he's at Missouri trying to tear things up in the SEC. If the Cajuns can't stop the run game and possibly stop him and the other great running backs that Missouri has, that's going to open up Missouri's pass game, and the Cajuns are going to be able to keep up defensively. And they have the offensive side of the ball. We talk about, yeah, Daniel Bill played great against McNeese. Now he's going against SEC competition. If the Cajuns are able to run the ball, that needs to open up the pass game. So would Daniel Bill be able to pass to these receivers? And like you said, the pass game, the guy who had the most yards was Kadarius Wade, who had only was it the longest 19. So these deep balls gotta happen. These receivers gotta get open. I think this year's receiving core, like you said, Chief, is definitely different. I felt like at first Sheldon Sampson would be the guy, but so far it's like it's really up for grabs. After I saw the first two games, everybody is like in the receiving group is like, hey, when opportunity's there, I'm going to shine. Because you got Landon Batista scored the one touchdown in the receiving core against McNeese. So I think it's kind of anybody's position. But the passing game definitely has to be there for the Cajuns to be able to even compete with Missouri.
I do think so. Looking at Missouri's offensive rankings coming into this game here, they're 11th in the nation in points per game, 12th in passing yards, 23rd in rushing. They total yards per game 577. That's good for fifth in the nation. Third down, which it's a very important stat to look at so far. They're 13th in the nation. So the Cajuns are, um, it's not looking good with in regards to how I think they're going to match up very well against this offense. I mean, against that offense there, because it's going to be tough on them for sure to be able to win these kind of games here. I think the Cajuns defense is definitely the big highlight of this team here. They've been able to limit points scored and stuff, and just seeing what's going on with that regard there. So looking at it from that perspective here, they're favored by 27 points. Missouri is. They uh they beat Kansas 42 to 31 their last game. Then after they play the Cajuns, they're going to take on South Carolina. So you might think that they might be a little bit looking ahead, possible positively here. Um, and that is something to look at here. They did in Missouri, they played Central Arkansas 61 to 6. So I mean, Missouri got a really favorable schedule if you look at their schedule because their first six games are at home. So that's something I have not seen in God knows how long because their first road game is against Auburn on October 18th. So looking at this here, I don't feel good about heading into this game here because I think the Cajuns are going to have to play keep away. I think you to win this game for the Cajuns, they need to do one of two things. They need to control the ball. No three and outs. Time of possession will be key here because the longer they can drag out that clock, less opportunities for Missouri to get the ball. If they can do that, I think they gotta have a chance here because ball control is important in football, and you don't want to have three and outs. You want to be able to extend drives, convert on third down, and if you even got to go for it on fourth down, I think every time the Cajuns take the field, I think the Cajuns should look at this. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain going into this one because they really do. If you look at it that way, that's a very good opportunity to take for what it's worth in regards to that there. So the line blocked better in the running game for this particular game than they did against Rice when they played against McNeese, the Cajuns did. So they're going to have to win the battle up front. I don't know if that's going to be exactly the case, though, because Missouri's got I mean, they gave up 31 points to Kansas. Now, granted, we're not comparing Kansas to the Cajuns here. Are they even the same? They're like, they're a Power 4 team. The Cajuns are not a Power 4 team, but they're kind of more toward the bottom of that Power 4 ranking, like kind of like the Wake Forest situation last year. People were hyping that one up and I was like, Wake Forest isn't a good Power 4 team, so let's kind of back off of the the jump of that there. So anyway, if they can control the line of scrimmage and time of possession, I think it'll be very key in this game. And I think if they could do that, they have a good chance. I think turnover battle is going to be important, like it is in every single game here. They need to limit the number of turnovers themselves here. Like the two fumbles they had, they cannot give Missouri any opportunity here, and that's easier said than done because we're not the ones taking the hits, Jalen. Let's just be honest with that out there.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
but that's what needs to be done here. If they can control the time of possession, I think they're going to win this ball game here. I think if they can get that 45 to 50 minute range of time of possession, well, not 45, 50 minute, my bad. 35 to 40 minute time of possession range because there's 60 minutes and a quarter, obviously. So you want to try to be in that 35 to 40 minute range, or even if you can even try to get to 45, that's a great day on controlling the ball. 35 to 40 minutes and try to slow down the drives. If they can slow down the drives, that Missouri defense can stand the field longer. And if they can have the ball control for over if they can get over 15 minutes of ball control in the first half, I think they might actually have like my percentage chance of them winning that game would jump from like I give the Cajuns if they don't do that maybe a 20-25% chance. I'm probably more leaning towards 20 than the 25. Let's say 22%. Um and if they were managed to do that, I think it would jump up to 35 to 40 because I think it's almost a double like almost double your percentage that you have a chance of winning that game if you're able to do that. Now, if you're not able to do that, then that thing might go down to 15. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, time of possession is definitely something that that it has to be in the Cajuns' favor because the Missouri keep that ball and they score all these points, and it's just the Cajuns are they're going to go to Missouri and get blown out, and none of us want to see that. I think the Cajuns need to keep the tempo going, run pass. I mean, the Cajuns know what they have to do to go up there and beat Missouri. It's just they have to execute and play Raging Cajun football. We'll just have to see if they're going to be able to do that on Saturday.
I think this DNA of this team is play really great defense and is control the ball. I think that's the key to the Cajun season right there. I did predict them to go 8-4. You predicted them to go 10-2. You might have your second loss already, Jalen, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah,
that is something that and because I wasn't quite sold on the receiver room, and I had a gut feeling that I was like, I thought Samson would have been the guy, and it's obviously more up for grabs, just like you said. But let's get down to picking this game, Jalen. Here, do the Cajuns beat Missouri Saturday at? I'm trying to see. Do they beat Missouri at Memorial Stadium at Faurot Field?
man, I don't. I wish my record could stay intact through the whole season, but I think the Cajuns will lose to Missouri. I just after losing that first game to Rice and kind of they did win against McNeese. I will say that, so I'll give them that. But going against the Missouri team who's ranked, I will say, and is a great team. I think that'd be too much for the Cajuns in the end.
I've been seeing comments about like the bigger schools, right? Like, oh, there's nothing to gain for these bigger schools to be playing the smaller schools and stuff. And that's been kind of a thing. My critique of that argument is why do we even have, we're just assuming that these big schools can be good. Look at Florida. Should Florida have even been ranked? I'm just talking about discussion here. Should Florida have
Yeah,
been ranked? Shouldn't even be ranked. Alabama, up for debate. Should they even be ranked? I think they have a good enough, but I don't think they were top 10 worthy. They shouldn't have been ranked in the top 10 because there's always two teams that should not be in that top 10. And now with them moving to these more games than the 9 game schedule for the SEC, it's going to limit the G5s, and that separation thing I keep talking about every single week here, that's going to eventually happen. It's unfortunate. That's just the way the college athletics is going, but I think it is what makes college ball great. Look at South Florida this year. Round of applause to them. They're having a great season. Man, knocking off Boise State, then going knock down Florida. That's very a great way to start the year for sure for them. I have Missouri winning this game over the Cajuns, though. I don't see the Cajuns being able to control the line of scrimmage up front. I think Missouri's defensive front is going to win that battle there. Um, I do think this is kind of like Cajun should go in there with a nothing to lose attitude. And I think they'll play a lot better if they're just loose. If they just loose and they go up there and they just play because they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If they win this game, it's gonna do a they're gonna be a big deal for them for CFP push, G5 thing, all the 9 yards, because that's going to give them the confidence they need that they can win with Daniel Bill at quarterback against higher echelon opponents. And you might even have some debating. You might even have to start him here. I mean, I think this might be a good thing for the Cajuns, Daniel Bill getting all these reps coming in because Walker Howard, he's going to be out for at least 6 weeks for sure. What we um, said with the season in like 6 weeks before we even start throwing the football around. So he might come back for the bowl game late, but I mean at that point, do you even want to start him whenever you had your guy playing the whole entire thing? Wait, make sure he's actually healthy before anything comes out. That is something I'm looking at there, but I think Missouri ends up beating the Cajuns in this one here. All right, Jalen, let's talk Sun Belt Conference football games. Troy at home, welcoming in Memphis. This is gonna be a good game. Troy gave Clemson a run for their money. Think
They
Dabo
should have
Swinney's
beat them.
hair. Yeah, they should have beat him. The group, he got some gray hair for sure after that one there. Um, this one I'm kind of interested in. I'm gonna go with Memphis though. I think Troy's due for a letdown because that could be an emotionally devastating loss to lose like that. But because it's give it away when you know you had an opportunity to close the deal and end up beating Troy. I mean, beating Clemson. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, I think Memphis is going to win this one. Troy, they could have the biggest upset of the year by beating Clemson last week. They're at home, but I think Memphis is going to take this one.
South Alabama going against number 24, Auburn. Auburn is at home. They're going to go with Jordan Hare. I got Auburn winning this one. South Alabama lost to Tulane this past weekend. I think they're going to lose this one. I don't think the Sun Belt as a whole is as good as they were last year. What do you think, Jalen?
Yeah, I think Auburn for sure is going to win this one. The SEC powerhouse this year. South Al, they're going to have to just try to bounce back, but they're definitely not going to win this one against Auburn.
Number 14, Iowa State going on the road. Yeah, you heard that. On the road to take
That's
on
crazy.
Arkansas State. Um, this is interesting one here. Iowa State needed a field goal to beat Iowa, who I picked Iowa to win that game, by the way. It was a very good game, very entertaining. Iowa just likes to run the ball a lot, and I think they need to learn how to pass a little bit more to kind of mix it up some, but I got Iowa State winning that game. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, even on the road, I definitely have Iowa State winning this one.
Eastern Kentucky taking on Marshall. Now, you want to talk about disappointments in week two. Marshall was a disappointment for sure. Last week losing. Yeah. Marshall, that was one that I wish they would have had back.
Yeah,
Missouri
against Missouri
State,
State.
they're 0-2. They need something. I hope they win this game here. I picked them to win that game last week. I'm gonna pick them again because they're at home. It's something's got to give, man. Give me Marshall. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, it's tough after seeing them lose to Missouri State last week, but the thing is, we got to push last week aside and look further, look going into this week. I think Marshall's going to win this one. They're not going to start the season 0-3. I think Marshall's going to take this one.
Okay. App State taking on Southern Miss. I do think that first Sun Belt game for both of them here. I do think that home away. Uh I know they're going App State's going on the road to Southern Miss. Give me Southern Miss. I think they'll win that one. What you think, Jalen?
This is definitely a toss up.
I think App State's
Let's,
greatly improved this year, by the way. I think they're looking a lot better this year.
I think I'm gonna go with App State in this one.
That's fair. Jacksonville State taking on Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, they haven't been the best looking at this year. I'm gonna go with man, this one's kind of a toss up to me too. I'm gonna go with Jacksonville State. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, I think Jacksonville State, excuse me, is going to take this one. Georgia Southern, they're going to start 0-3.
Murray State taking on Georgia State. I got Georgia State winning this one. What you think, Jalen?
So who's going to win that first game? Let's see. I'm I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm gonna go with Georgia State.
Old Dominion taking on Virginia Tech. I got Va Tech winning this one. They're gonna be at home. I don't think it's gonna be much of a competition. What you think, Jalen?
So yeah, Virginia Tech, you got to look at it. They lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt, two big SEC schools. So you see why they're 0-2. I think Virginia Tech is going to take this one and get their first win of the season. So sorry, Old Dominion.
East Carolina taking on Coastal Carolina. This is kind of a Coastal's gonna be at home for this one here. Coastal didn't look really good last week, and I'm gonna go with East Carolina. I think they'll get the job done. What you think, Jalen?
Yeah, Coastal didn't look great, and then they lost to Virginia at the beginning of the year. Man, I think East Carolina's going to take this one.
Texas State taking on Arizona State in the late. This is a late one, 10:30. I think these are Eastern times. I'm not quite sure, but it's gonna be on TNT. I got Arizona State. They had a they haven't been doing the best on offense though either. I mean, it's kind of hard to say here. Arizona State favored by 14 and a half in this one here. They did lose to Mississippi State last week here, and they beat Northern Arizona. So, I mean, they had a close loss to Mississippi State. I do think that's enough. I do think they're going to do just enough to beat Texas State. But Texas State, to me, looks like they're kind of leading the West of the Sun Belt so far. It's either between them or Troy right now. They look like my top two front run. Well, Southern Miss is there too. There's a three-headed horse up to the front there. I do think I kind of lean more Texas State a little bit more than Southern Miss and Troy in the West so far, just from based on what I'm seeing. But I got Arizona State winning this one. What do you think, Jalen?
Yeah, I think Arizona State is going to win this one, but I think it's going to be closer than what we think. I mean, Texas State is starting a freshman. I don't know if you looked at that from San Antonio, so they're doing great to start the year.
Yeah, that is a very good thing here. It's their last year in the Sun Belt, so that they definitely gonna go out on top if they can keep doing what they're doing here, and just kind of keep the pressure up on that kind of thing there. So I do think that is all the Sun Belt games here that I'm kind of looking at. Let me make sure I'm not missing any games. Yep, that's all. All times for USC Eastern. Okay, so there's the correction that I needed. Thank you very much. So anyway, I do believe that is all the time that we have here for this wonderful edition of the Fishbowl Sports Radio. Anything you want to say, Jalen, before we get off the air here?
Um, I just want to say also, fans keep tuning in to Raging Cajun soccer and volleyball. Their seasons are also going on right now, and football's going to be there. Everybody's going to tune in to football, but also tune in to Raging Cajun soccer and Raging Cajun volleyball. They're going to have great seasons also.
And you know what? They're free. They're free admission to the games. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know that too much there. So if you are watching this right now in this little area here that during the live, we're live right here. So um That could very well be what they need. Like if you want like basically a cheap get out with your family, your kids and stuff, watching volleyball. Volleyball is a very like fun sport to watch at OK Long. And soccer is too. I mean, it's free outing there, and all you got to pay for is concessions. That's it. You can't find a better deal than that. That's all I'm going to say there. Thank
Absolutely.
y'all for tuning in here to this episode here of the Fishbowl Sports Radio. We hope you have a great and wonderful day or night, whatever time you're watching this podcast at. We are currently live right now, and this thing will be on demand on our Facebook and YouTube pages. You can find those under the live tab for each of those or videos. Um, Not the biggest social media guru basically there is, but um, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and follow us on X. Hope you have a great and wonderful time. We're gonna see you here next time here on the Fishbowl Sports Radio. We have a great and wonderful night. We're gonna see you here next time here on the Fishbowl Sports Radio. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.